Good afternoon, Virgo. I'm Anna, and welcome to your daily tarot reading. Thank you so much for joining me today. There's a particular kind of tired that doesn't show up on the surface. Not the tired that sleep fixes, not the tired that a good meal or a quiet weekend can touch, something deeper than that. Something that has been accumulating in layers slowly, almost imperceptibly over a stretch of time that may feel, from the inside, like it has no clear beginning anymore. You may know this tired intimately. The kind that sits behind your eyes in the morning before the day has even started. The kind that makes ordinary tasks feel like they require a negotiation with yourself. The kind that has taught you, perhaps without you realizing it, to keep your expectations low, not out of pessimism, but out of a quiet self-protection, a way of bracing, a way of not letting yourself be surprised by disappointment again. And I want to say something to you, something that may be difficult to receive if you've been in survival mode for a long time, something that might brush up against a part of you that has learned to be skeptical of good things, because good things in your experience have sometimes had a way of not staying. But I'm going to say it anyway, because some things need to be said out loud before they can be felt. And some people need to hear it, really hear it, before something in them is willing to consider that it might be true. Something may be changing around you, not in the loud, obvious way that change sometimes announces itself, not with fanfare or clarity or a clean before and after, more like the way a season shifts gradually, then all at once. The way you don't notice the days getting longer until suddenly one evening there's still light at an hour that used to be dark, and you think, when did that happen? That's the quality of what may be moving towards you. Quiet at first, understated, easy to miss if you're not paying attention, or if you've spent so long looking down, managing the immediate terrain of your days, that you've forgotten to look up and see what's approaching on the horizon. There could be something on the horizon. It may not have a name yet. It may not have a face or a form or a clear arrival date. But there are things in this life that don't announce themselves until they're already here, and sometimes the only evidence they were coming is the strange, inexplicable feeling that something was about to shift just before it did. Let's stay with your struggle for a moment, because it deserves that. It deserves to be looked at directly, not minimized, not glossed over with quick reassurances, not rushed past in the eagerness to get to the hopeful part, because what you've been carrying has been real. The weight of it has been real. The endurance it has required, the daily, unglamorous, unwitnessed endurance has been real. And it's possible that very few people have truly seen that. There's a particular invisibility that comes with long-term struggle. When something has been hard for a long time, the world tends to normalize it, including sometimes the person living it. You adapt. You find ways to function inside the difficulty, and that adaptation, as necessary as it is, can make the struggle harder to name, harder to show, harder to ask for acknowledgement for, because on the outside you've been managing, you've been holding it together, you've been fine enough that no one thought to ask. But managing isn't the same as thriving. Holding it together isn't the same as feeling held. And fine enough is a very long way from the life that may have been quietly waiting for you on the other side of all this. In some form, you perhaps stopped letting yourself imagine. When did you stop imagining it? That's worth sitting with for a moment. Not as a judgment, nothing about this is a judgment, but as a gentle inquiry. A soft light turned toward a corner of you that may have gone quiet. There may have been a time when you could feel possibility more easily, when the future felt open in a way that didn't require effort, when you could think about what you wanted, really wanted, in the specific and honest way that children want things before they learn to preemptively protect themselves from disappointment and feel something kindle in your chest at the thought of it. Somewhere along the way, it's possible that kindling became harder to find, not because you became smaller, not because something essential left you, but because hope, when it's been met with difficulty enough times, learns to make itself scarce. It goes underground. It becomes quieter than fear, quieter than doubt, quieter than the accumulated evidence of all the times things didn't go the way you needed them to. And so you adjusted, you recalibrated, you became perhaps a more careful version of yourself, more measured, more guarded around the soft places. But those soft places are still there. They didn't leave. They've just been waiting with a patience that might surprise you if you knew the full depth of it for a moment when it felt safe enough to open again. Here is something that may be worth considering. The things that break through the unexpected reversals, the sudden openings, the moments where life offers something you'd almost stopped expecting, they rarely arrive when everything feels ready. They don't wait for you to have it together. They don't schedule themselves around your preparedness. They tend to arrive in the mess, in the ordinary, in the middle of a Tuesday that looked exactly like every other Tuesday until it didn't. And there's something about a long stretch of struggle that may, in ways that aren't always visible, create a particular kind of readiness. Not the comfortable kind, not the kind that feels like readiness from the inside, more like the readiness of ground that has been broken open, difficult, yes, but capable now of receiving something it couldn't have held before. Something may have been growing in the dark of all this, in the waiting, in the endurance, in the quiet accumulation of all the days you kept going when you didn't entirely know why. Something that doesn't announce itself until it's ready, and when it comes, it may arrive less like a sudden strike of lightning and more like a slow, warm light that gradually fills a room you'd forgotten could be lit that way. There are things that have been in motion that you may not have been able to see. That's not a mystical claim. It's simply an acknowledgement of how much of life operates beneath the surface of what's visible, the decisions being made in rooms you're not in, the connections forming between people and circumstances that haven't yet intersected with your story, the slow turning of circumstances that looks from inside the turning like nothing is moving at all. It's possible that more has been aligning than you've had evidence for. Not because you're owed anything, not because struggle automatically produces reward, but because you've been moving even when it felt like standing still. You've been growing even when it felt like contracting. You've been becoming someone quietly, without ceremony, who may be more prepared for what's coming than the version of you from a year ago could have been. Struggle changes the shape of a person, not always in the ways that self-help books describe, not always cleanly, not always with a tidy lesson attached. Sometimes it just deepens you, widens your capacity for something, clears out a space inside you that didn't exist before because it had to be made by the difficulty. a space that may be exactly the right size for what's approaching. I want to speak to the part of you that is afraid to hope, because that part is real and it deserves to be addressed directly, not argued with, not dismissed, not bypassed in the enthusiasm of an uplifting message. That part of you has reasons, good ones, reasons built from experience, from memory, from the specific texture of disappointments that left marks. That part isn't wrong for being cautious. But there's a difference between caution and closure, between protecting yourself and sealing yourself off from the very thing you're quietly, underneath everything, still reaching for. And it's possible, gently possible, that the caution has started to cost more than it was ever meant to cost. Hope doesn't require certainty to be worth having. That's the thing about it that makes it uncomfortable, and also the thing that makes it powerful. It doesn't ask you to know. It doesn't ask you to have evidence. It asks only for a willingness, small, tentative, perhaps barely perceptible, to remain open to the possibility that things could move in a direction you can't currently see from where you're standing. Just open, not certain, not committed, just not entirely closed. That may be all that's needed right now. You've carried things that weren't yours to carry alone. There's a specific exhaustion that comes from that, from being the person who holds, who manages, who keeps going for the sake of others, or circumstances, or obligations that couldn't wait for you to be okay first. From putting your own need for relief on a shelf so many times that eventually you stopped noticing it was there. But it's there. And something about this moment, something about the particular intersection of time and endurance and whatever quiet, invisible forces may be arranging themselves around your life right now, suggests that the shelf is getting closer, that what you placed up there, patient and dusty with waiting, may be closer to within reach than it has been in a long time. Not because you finally earned it. You didn't need to earn it. You never needed to earn relief. But perhaps because the accumulation of all of this, the struggle, the survival, the slow and unglamorous persistence, has led you to a threshold, an edge of something, a place where the terrain is about to change in ways that won't be entirely predictable, but that may carry, embedded in the change itself, something that feels, finally, overdue, almost unbelievably like relief. So here is what I want to leave with you. Not a promise. I can't offer you a promise, and anything that claimed to be one would be doing you a disservice. But something softer than a promise, and perhaps more durable, an invitation to let this land somewhere in you, even lightly, even provisionally, to allow the possibility, just the possibility, that you have not been forgotten by the part of life that offers unexpected gifts, that your name is still on a list somewhere, that what feels like an endless waiting room may have a door in it that you haven't noticed yet, or that wasn't there before, or that is only now becoming visible. You've struggled long enough, not as a declaration of what must happen next, but as an observation offered with full weight by something that has been watching the length and the texture of this season you've been in, and sees, perhaps more clearly than you can from the inside, that a season is exactly what it is, that it has edges, that it is not the permanent shape of your life, even when it has started to feel that way. Seasons change, not on demand, not on schedule, not always when we're ready or when we've given up or when we've done the right thing or learned the right lesson. Sometimes for reasons that remain entirely opaque, that never resolve into meaning, they simply change. And something may be changing right now in this strange, quiet, unremarkable moment while you're sitting with this, while something in you is listening more carefully than you might want to admit. Something may be shifting at a level you can't see yet, moving in your direction, taking shape. Not a miracle in the dramatic sense, but something that, when it arrives in whatever form it takes, at whatever speed it chooses, may feel to the part of you that has been waiting the longest like exactly that. Breathe. You're still here. You've been here through all of it. And something about that, something about the simple, stubborn fact of your continued presence may matter more than you currently know.